Have you ever prayed for something with all your heart, only to watch God close the door? You prayed for that opportunity. You prayed for that relationship. You prayed for that breakthrough. You prayed for that answer. You believed. You waited. You trusted. And then, nothing. The opportunity disappeared. The relationship ended. The answer you wanted never came. The door you were certain God would open stayed closed. And perhaps you asked the question that millions of people have asked before you. God, why? Why did you let this happen? Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you give me what I prayed for? Why did you close the door? If you're standing in that place right now, I want you to hear something important. A closed door does not always mean rejection. Sometimes, a closed door is protection. Sometimes it is redirection. And sometimes, it is preparation. You may not understand the door that closed today, but God may understand what was waiting behind it. Think about a child standing at a road, wanting to run towards something beautiful on the other side. The child sees the destination, but the parent sees the traffic. The child sees what they want. The parent sees what they cannot see. And when the parent says, no, the child may cry. The child may become angry. The child may think, you don't understand what I want. But the parent isn't saying no because they don't love the child. They're saying no because they see more than the child can see. And sometimes, God's closed doors work the same way. You see the opportunity. God sees the consequences. You see the person. God sees the future. You see the destination. God sees the entire road. We see one moment. God sees the whole story. There may be doors you begged God to open that would have taken you somewhere you were never meant to stay. Maybe you wanted a certain job. You thought, this is the answer. You imagined the money, the success, the new beginning, and then the opportunity disappeared. You were disappointed, but months later, you discovered something you couldn't have known at the time. The environment was unhealthy. The people were wrong for you. The position would have taken you away from your family. Your peace would have disappeared. What felt like rejection was protection. Maybe it was a relationship. You loved someone. You prayed for the relationship to work. You imagined a future together. And then suddenly, the relationship ended. You couldn't understand it. You thought, God, why would you take this person away? But sometimes God removes what we cannot release ourselves. Sometimes He sees the wounds, the patterns, the consequences, and the future pain that we cannot see while we are emotionally attached. Not every person who leaves your life is a loss. Not every closed relationship is a punishment. Sometimes God is protecting your heart from a future your present emotions cannot recognize. And sometimes, the closed door is protecting you from yourself. Because there are moments when we want something so badly that we are willing to ignore every warning. We call it faith, but sometimes it is simply attachment. We say, God, please open this door. And God says, no, not because He wants to hurt you, but because He knows what you don't know. So when a door closes, before you ask, God, why did you take this away? Try asking, God, what might you be protecting me from? That question can change everything. But protection is not the only reason God closes doors. Sometimes, He closes a door because He is redirecting you. Have you ever noticed how often our plans seem so certain, until suddenly they aren't? You thought you knew where your life was going. You had a 5-year plan. You knew what you wanted. You knew who you wanted beside you. You knew what success looked like. And then one unexpected event changed everything. A job ended. A relationship ended. A dream collapsed. An opportunity disappeared. And suddenly, you were standing in a hallway, with no idea where to go. But what if the hallway isn't the end of your story? What if God is turning you? Sometimes we become so focused on one door that we don't notice the doors around us. We keep knocking on the same door. We keep asking God to reopen it. We keep saying, That's where I belong. But God may be saying, no, that's where you wanted to go. It isn't where I am taking you. And that can be painful. Because God's direction does not always feel like direction. Sometimes it feels like disappointment. Sometimes it feels like failure. Sometimes it feels like starting over. But a different direction does not mean a lesser destination. You may think your story has been interrupted. God may be writing the next chapter. Think about the disciples. They had their own expectations of what Jesus' kingdom would look like. But Jesus constantly challenged their understanding. His path did not look like the path they expected. And eventually, even the cross looked like the ultimate defeat. But what appeared to be the end became the beginning of something greater. Sometimes we judge a chapter before we have reached the final page. You may be looking at your life right now and thinking, this is not how my story was supposed to go. Maybe not, but that does not mean God has left your story. It may mean He is writing something you couldn't have planned yourself. And then there is the third reason, perhaps the hardest one. Sometimes the door remains closed because you are not ready for what is behind it. We want the blessing. God may be preparing the person who will carry the blessing. We want the platform. God may be building the character. We want the relationship. God may be healing the heart. We want the opportunity. God may be developing the wisdom to handle it. Think about a seed. When a seed is placed beneath the soil, nothing seems to be happening. From the surface, it looks like silence, darkness, stillness. But underneath, roots are forming. Growth is happening where nobody can see it. And there may be seasons in your life that feel exactly like that. You are praying. Nothing seems to change. You are waiting. Nothing seems to open. You are asking, God, where are you? But perhaps God is doing His deepest work where you cannot see it. He is strengthening you, teaching you patience, changing your priorities, healing wounds, removing pride, teaching you dependence, preparing you to carry something that would have crushed you if you had received it too early. We often pray, God, change my circumstances. But sometimes God begins by changing us. Because the greatest blessing is not always getting what you wanted. Sometimes the greatest blessing is becoming the person who can handle what God has prepared. So don't despise the waiting. Don't assume that silence means absence. And don't assume that delay means denial. There is a difference between not yet and never. You do when the door stays closed. So what do you do when you have prayed, waited, and the door still hasn't opened? First, stop trying to force it. There are doors that God closes because they are not yours. And no amount of pushing, begging, manipulating, or worrying will make the wrong door become the right one. Sometimes faith means knowing when to stop knocking. Second, stop comparing your journey to everyone else's. Someone else's open door does not mean God has forgotten you. You may look around and see people moving forward. Someone got the job, someone got married, someone bought the house, someone achieved the dream, someone seems to have everything you've been praying for, and you wonder, God, what about me? But comparison can make you despise your own season. Their chapter is not your chapter. Their timing is not your timing. Their road is not your road. You don't know what God is doing behind the scenes of your own story. Third, keep walking. A closed door is not permission to stop living. Keep praying, keep learning, keep loving, keep serving, keep becoming, keep trusting. If God has closed one door, don't spend your entire life standing in front of it. Look around. There may be another path. There may be another opportunity. There may be another person God wants you to help. There may be another purpose waiting for you. And sometimes, the next door doesn't appear until you finally walk away from the old one. Maybe tonight, there is a door you are still standing in front of. You know exactly what it is. A relationship, a career, a dream, a financial breakthrough, a family situation, a prayer you've repeated 1,000 times, and deep inside, you are still saying, God, please open this door. But perhaps tonight, your prayer needs to change. Not because you have stopped believing, but because you have started trusting. Instead of, God, give me this, say, God, give me what you know is best. Instead of, God, make this happen, say, God, lead me where you want me to go. Instead of, God, open this door, say, God, if this door is not for me, give me the courage to walk away. That is not giving up. That is surrender. And surrender is not weakness. Surrender is saying, God, I trust your vision more than my own. You don't have to understand everything. To trust Him, you don't have to know the destination. To take the next step, you don't have to see the entire road. You only need enough faith for the step in front of you. One day, you may look back. You may remember the thing you once cried over, the opportunity you thought you could never live without, the relationship you thought was your future, the dream you thought was your purpose, and you may finally understand. You may say, now I see, I didn't understand then, but God did. That door wasn't punishment, it was protection. That delay wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. That redirection wasn't failure, it was purpose. And maybe the greatest lesson was not what God gave you. Maybe it was what He taught you while you were waiting. So if you are standing in front of a closed door tonight, don't lose heart. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. Your story is not over. The God who closed one door is still holding the keys. And if He is holding the keys, then your future is still in His hands. So breathe. Release the disappointment, release the timeline, release the need to understand everything, and say, God, I trust you, I trust your protection, I trust your purpose, I trust your preparation, I trust your timing, and I trust your plan. Because God's no does not mean He has stopped loving you. His silence does not mean He has stopped working. And a closed door does not mean there is no future. Sometimes God closes one door because He knows you were never meant to stay in that room. Sometimes He closes the door because there is a better road ahead. And sometimes the door you cried over today will become the door you thank God for closing tomorrow. So don't give up. Don't turn back. Don't force what God has closed. Keep walking with Him, because the same God who sees the door you cannot understand also sees the future you cannot yet imagine. And when the right door opens, you may finally understand why He asked you to wait. Tonight, I want you to leave with one sentence in your heart: I trust your no as much as I trust your yes. Because I don't need to understand every closed door, I only need to trust the one who holds the keys. Amen.